This episode of Marijuana Today Daily is brought to you by our friends over at McCabe Law, LLC of Portland, Maine, your go-to source for all your legal marijuana needs. Find out about all the things they do and get in touch over at McCabeLawLLC.com, which is spelled MCCABE LawLLC.com. Good morning, Marijuana Nation. It's Friday, October 13th, 2017, and you're tuned in to episode 351 of Marijuana Today Daily. I'm your host, Shay Gunther, and I'll be walking you through today's marijuana news and headlines. As always, we have a full and busy day of cannabis news in our hands, so let's jump right into it. Our top story of the day unfortunately brings us out to Northern California, where wildfire continues to blaze across the state's landscape, torching entire neighborhoods, thousands of acres of forests, businesses, and farms. Mary Jane has a great piece up looking at how the fires have affected the legal marijuana industry and the ways that people are already moving to help those negatively impacted. One of the tragic angles on how the fires are hitting legal marijuana particularly hard is that because of cannabis's federal status as an illegal drug, marijuana cultivators are not able to insure their businesses, meaning those who have been hit by recent fires have lost, in many cases, everything they have. Swing over to Mary Jane's piece for the full story and for links to fundraisers for those folks in need. Tom Angel over at Marijuana Moments picked up on a U.S. House Judiciary Committee hearing held yesterday in which Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz pushed for the passage of an amendment he submitted calling for the government to study the use of medical marijuana by police officers. In a strong statement of support, the Republican congressman said, quote, "The federal government has lied to the American people for a generation about cannabis. There is substantial evidence that indicates that there is a case to be made for the medical efficacy of cannabis in the treatment of mental health and particularly PTSD." Unquote. Swing over to Tom's piece on Marijuana Moment for the full read on this one, as well as videos of the hearing, as the congressman's language was refreshingly to the point when he talked about cannabis's current status as a Schedule I drug. As always, we have all the news we cover linked to on our website at mjtodaydaily.com and on our Twitter account at mjtodaydaily. Our final top story of the day is a long-form piece in Rolling Stone that doesn't really break any new news, but does do a good job of framing the overall cannabis legalization scene in California. The article nicely highlights some of the challenges state and local officials are dealing with in terms of licensing and converting illicit market players over into regulated systems. With the large state of 40 million people just months away from the kickoff of adult use legalization Proposition 64, this is yet another good one to dive into for the full digest. Those are our top stories for today. It's time for Marijuana Today Daily Headlines Blitz. Before we blitz out on headlines, let's quickly thank our sponsor, McCabe Law, LLC of Portland, Maine. If you need help navigating the ever-changing waters of the legal marijuana industry in either Maine or Massachusetts, then one of your first calls should be over to Chris McCabe and his team of pros at McCabe Law, LLC of Portland, Maine. Make sure you have all your legal bases covered by engaging with a team of experts like McCabe Law. With each state having its own unique set of rules and regulations, you really don't want to settle for anything but the local best. And that's what you get when you work with McCabe Law. Learn how to get in touch and see all the handy things they're good at over at McCabeLawLLC.com, which is spelled MCCABE LawLLC.com. McCabeLawLLC.com. All right, time for the blitz. Keeping our sights out west in California, we have news of the County of Los Angeles issuing its first marijuana business license. This is an interesting story because it involves a dispensary called 99 High Tide Collective located in the small city of Malibu, where medical marijuana is allowed, but that outsources all its business licensing work to the County of Los Angeles, where marijuana businesses are currently banned. To be clear, this doesn't have anything to do with the city of LA, which is still working to clear up the muddle of its marijuana business program, as we've reported on a number of times in recent weeks. A new survey conducted among 1,368 people living in the Washington, D.C. area found that 8% of respondents reported buying legal marijuana. Forbes has a piece up looking at the interesting data point showing that those respondents working for the federal government have a slightly higher rate of cannabis purchasing at 11%. Demographically speaking, the cannabis consumers in the survey were found to be, on the whole, highly educated, high earners. Looking south to Florida, we find a kerfuffle in the works between officials with the State Department of Health and an administrative law judge overseeing a case involving the awarding of medical marijuana business licenses. Health officials are asking Administrative Judge John Van Lanningham to step down from considering a legal challenge raised by a thwarted medical marijuana license applicant. But from the sounds of the Tallahassee Democrats reporting, the friction between the judge and the state's Office of Medical Marijuana Use goes back to previous cases and conflicts. If you're into the Florida scene, this is a good one to scoop up in full for all the context. Marijuana.com has a good piece up about a new political party in Costa Rica that's calling for the legalization of adult-use marijuana. The Vows party, which is English for Let's Go, is led by Margarita Salas, a Harvard-educated politician who wants her nation to allow for both medical and adult-use cannabis. Elections in the Central American nation are coming up in February, and while I know very little about the political scene in Costa Rica, it does seem like the kind of place that would do well with legal cannabis. We'll report back on any relevant updates. The city of Denver is considering a proposal to ban smoking and vaping on the popular 16th Street Mall, but opponents are fighting back, calling the whole thing a thinly veiled attack on poor and homeless people. Earlier this week, a Denver City Council subcommittee approved the so-called Breathe Easy plan, which prohibits the smoking and vaping of any substance, be it tobacco or cannabis, on the 16th Street Mall between Broadway and Chestnut Place, hitting offenders with a fine of up to $100. The measure will go before the City Council at large later this month for final consideration. Matt Lammers over at Marijuana Business Daily has a good story up looking at two recent deals put together by Canadian licensed medical marijuana firms to export their medical marijuana products to more than 20,000 pharmacies in Germany. The two companies, the Kronos Group and Tilray, signed separate deals with two different German companies with ties to the pharmacies. The exported Canadian medical marijuana products could hit German pharmacy shelves as soon as next week, as Matt's reporting. And finally for today, Governing.com jumped into the issue of states withholding marijuana tax revenue from towns and municipalities voting to ban legal marijuana businesses. While there's a push building in Massachusetts to do just that, there's no current rules or regulations keeping towns who boot legal cannabis from their borders from reaping the financial rewards of state-collected tax revenue. That's not the case in Oregon, which started keeping money from pot-unfriendly towns this summer, or in California, which will do the same under the provisions of Proposition 64. This is an issue that's likely to pop up again, so maybe not a bad one to read in full. Those are our headlines and news for the day. I'll be back with you again Monday with another information-packed episode of Marijuana Today Daily. But in the meantime, if you have any stories to share or feedback to give, zip us an email to headlines@mjtodaydaily.com. And while you're clicking around the interwebs, swing over to our Twitter account at MJTodayDaily and visit our website at mjtodaydaily.com to find links to all the news we cover. Thanks to our sponsor, McCabe Law, LLC, and to all of our awesome Patreon listeners for the support that makes this show possible. To join the lesser ranks of the Patreon listeners yourself, swing over to our website at mjtodaydaily.com and click on that big blue button at the top of the page that says Become a Patron. I'm your host, Shay Gunther. Thanks for tuning in and starting your day with marijuana today.
One take, Shay. One take.